This has been a saga throughout this transfer window. Arsenal's pursuit of a striker, and in particular, in the past couple of weeks, the Sporting striker Viktor Gyökeres. There's been all sorts of unsavouriness, if you like, between Sporting and the player himself. He hasn't returned to training. The Sporting president has been very disappointed with Gyökeres' actions. He says if whoever is masterminding this thinks this is going to change my mind about his future, then they're sadly mistaken. But we do believe that there has now been a breakthrough between Arsenal and Sporting over the signing of Viktor Gyökeres. We understand a deal has been agreed in principle whereby Arsenal will pay an initial £55 million plus performance-related add-ons, which we think will add up to around £9 million. So the total deal looks like it is around £64 million to get Viktor Gyökeres from Sporting Lisbon to Arsenal.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on the time you're viewing this, football fans. If you're an Arsenal supporter or just a transfer market enthusiast, you've likely been glued to the latest updates about Viktor Gyökeres, the Swedish striker who's been the talk of the town. According to recent reports, including from Sky Sports, Arsenal are on the verge of sealing a blockbuster move for the Sporting CP star, with negotiations reaching an advanced stage. Let's dive into the details of this potential done deal, explore what it means for Arsenal, and critically examine the buzz around this transfer as of today, July 17, 2025. A deal in principle has been in place since the weekend, after a breakthrough in talks on Sunday. The framework of the deal is done, but it seems to be that the final sticking point is around how exactly the add-ons will be met. Arsenal are confident that a deal will be agreed, but I wouldn't want to put a time frame on when that will be. It could happen at any point, with Arsenal obviously keen to get Gyökeres through the door as quickly as possible to help with his acclimatization. Mikel Arteta and his squad head out to Asia on Saturday for the start of their pre-season tour, and Andrea Berta and the club have been pushing to get the majority of the club's transfer targets in by then. Whether the last few details of the Gyökeres deal can be ironed out by then, we'll have to wait and see, but Arsenal would certainly like that, as you would think the player would. If Arsenal get this one over the line, I think Berta will get a lot of credit for the way he has handled the negotiations. It hasn't been easy, because Sporting have understandably looked to play hardball, which is absolutely their right given how crucial a player Gyökeres has been for them over the past 2 years. But Berta has stayed patient, and the deal he has struck is a good one. You can't really argue with an initial fee of around £55 million for a striker with Gyökeres' recent record. Yes, there are question marks over the Portuguese league and whether he will be able to replicate anything close to his level of goal-scoring exploits in the Premier League. But even so, it's a good price for such a free-scoring striker in the current market. Ultimately, the deal will be judged on what Gyökeres goes on to do for Arsenal. But right now it looks like excellent work from Berta as he continues to navigate his way through his first transfer window at the club.
First, let's talk about who Viktor Gyökeres is and why he's such a hot commodity. The 27-year-old Swedish international has been lighting up the Portuguese Premier Liga with Sporting CP, where he scored an astonishing 54 goals in 52 appearances last season. That's the kind of form that makes any club sit up and take notice, especially one like Arsenal, who've been crying out for a prolific number 9 to lead their line. Mikel Arteta, Arsenal's manager, has made it clear that a top-tier striker is his priority this summer, especially after last season when no Arsenal player hit double figures for league goals, a stat not seen at the club in over a century. Gyökeres, with his blend of physicality, clinical finishing, and ability to fit Arteta's high-pressing system, seems like the perfect candidate to fill that gap. So, where does the transfer stand? Sky Sports reported on July 13th that Arsenal are close to agreeing a deal with Sporting for Gyökeres, with a fixed fee of around £55 million or €63.5 million on the table, though negotiations over add-ons, potentially up to £8.6 million or €10 million, are still ongoing. Sources like The Independent and The Standard confirm that talks have progressed after a breakthrough, with Arsenal aiming to finalize the deal this week. However, it hasn't been all smooth sailing. Just days ago, reports from Portugal suggested the deal was at risk of collapsing due to disagreements over clauses and add-ons, with Sporting pushing for 4 specific terms that Arsenal weren't fully on board with. One sticking point was reportedly a clause Sporting wanted, but Arsenal refused, though details remain murky. Despite these hiccups, the consensus now is that the transfer is nearing completion, with Gyökeres potentially said to undergo a medical soon and join Arsenal's preseason tour in Singapore. What's fascinating here is the role Gyökeres himself has played in pushing this move forward. Reports indicate he refused to report for Sporting's preseason training, a bold move that sparked disciplinary threats from Sporting's president, Frederico Varandas. Yet this wasn't entirely unexpected by his teammates, suggesting Gyökeres has had his heart set on Arsenal for a while. There's even talk of a gentleman's agreement from when Sporting signed him from Coventry City in 2023, promising to facilitate a move if a top Champions League club like Arsenal came calling. Personal terms with Arsenal are reportedly not an issue, with a 5-year contract ready for the striker, signaling his commitment to Arteta's project. Now, let's put this in context for Arsenal. This transfer is part of a broader, ambitious summer spending spree that's already seen the Gunners linked with Noni Madueke, who's reportedly undergone a medical for a £52 million move, and defender Christian Mosquera, whose deal is also close to completion. The Athletic pegs Arsenal's potential summer outlay at over £200 million, a figure that raises eyebrows given the Premier League's profitability and sustainability rules.
New sporting director Andrea Berta, known for his transfer nows from his time at Atletico Madrid, is orchestrating these moves, and fans are hopeful he can help Arsenal end their 2-decade wait for a Premier League title. Gyökeres, alongside these other signings, could transform Arsenal's attack, which has relied heavily on Kai Havertz and Gabriel Jesus but lacked a true goal-scoring machine. However, we should approach this news with a critical eye. While Sky Sports and other outlets like The Standard and Goal.com paint an optimistic picture, the transfer market is notorious for last-minute twists. Just yesterday, reports surfaced about tense negotiations and a potential collapse, as noted by Football.London. Fabrizio Romano, a trusted voice in transfer news, countered these claims, stating on his YouTube channel that nothing has collapsed and Arsenal are still in the race. This back and forth highlights the uncertainty that often accompanies high-stakes deals. Additionally, Gyökeres' transition from the Portuguese league to the Premier League's intensity isn't guaranteed to be seamless. Sky Sports' Sam Blitz has raised questions about how Gyökeres stacks up against the Premier League's best strikers and whether the Premier League's level of competition truly prepares him for England's top flight. From a fan perspective, the sentiment on X is electric. Posts from accounts like Sky Sports News and @TransferChecker have fueled excitement, with some claiming Gyökeres himself bridged a $4 million valuation gap by surrendering money owed to him by Sporting. Arsenal fans are buzzing about the prospect of a new attacking trident, potentially featuring Gyökeres, Madueke, and even Eberechi Eze, who's rumored to be next on Arsenal's radar. But fans should temper expectations. X-posts aren't definitive proof, and the transfer window's volatility means nothing is certain until the ink is dry. So, what's the bottom line? As of today, July 17, 2025, Viktor Gyökeres to Arsenal looks like a done deal in all but name, with Sky Sports and multiple sources reporting that only minor details remain.